to And Here's Modi. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's so funny And Here's Modi, Alex, is because, you know, I always follow some crazy thing whenever I do a show.
Yeah, of course. I know. I remember the story, and I remember the story when you told it to me, and then I remember you doing a bit about it for the first time. It was a great joke.
So for listeners, we're here, of course, with Leo, with Periel, and we have Alex Edelman here with us today. And it's just funny that last night I had a real big And Here's Modi moment. It was I did a show at the Safra Center for a disease I've never heard of.
Some like rare form of epilepsy, right? Or something?
Is it? I don't know. The guy, it was beautiful audience, about 150 people at the Safra Center. They had, it's a disease that only 100 people in the world have. And the doctor came on, and with an Israeli accent.
Oh my God.
Dr. Lior, blah, 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 blah. And he comes on, and he was for a half hour, and the protons do this, and the neutrons don't do that. And then when it copies itself, it's just makes two copies, but this one only makes one copy. And the degeneration, it was 20 minutes. People's mouths.
20 minutes to explain the disease. Basically.
It was insane. It was insane. And then the woman comes on. Literally, she's blown away. She didn't know it was going to be that long and that intricate. And she goes, and here's Modi. She literally goes, and here's Modi.
Oh my God.
And luckily,
so like a comatose room.
A comatose room. So I come on and I just start with an Israeli accent, continuing on what he was saying.
Oh my
that's
God.
So the protoplasm of what you can actually see is that when it's not neutralized, and I said,
And people are dying.
And then I just went into the act, and they really came around, and it's an honor to be, to have helped such an organization, and it's amazing that we do that. It's amazing that we do that.
What's amazing is,
really
But it was really,
and
Here's Modi. It was really the And Here's Modi moment.
That happens though at every charity and corporate event, almost every single one, right? It's very rarely done really well where you're seamlessly integrated into the programming.
They've been getting better, but there are ones that it's just blatant, boom.
But also, people know you now. And if anyone if anyone goes to a charity event and it's a good event,
yeah,
the odds are it's going to be you or like two other comedians. Last night I did a talk back after my show for the first time. People asking questions, and they said, "So you do comedy about who are the Jewish comedians that you look up to who are observant?" And I was like, there are two of them. I was like, it's Elon and Modi. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, and everyone, and it was so funny though, because it was a Jewish organization, the American Jewish Congress or the American Jewish Coalition. I can't remember what AJC stands for, but they were like, as soon as I said Modi, everyone's like, yeah, Modi. Like we know Modi, of course.
So
everybody knows
That's so great to hear.
It was so. Every time I said a name, thinking it would be like an obscure reference, they were like, no, we know who. We know who Mordechai Lightstone of Chabad is. It's such a small world.
Is it just
inward, But yeah, that makes sense. If you're doing an event at the Safra Center for a rare disease and there's a comedian,
it's Modi.
Yeah, it's Modi. If you're doing an event, it's like comedy Mad Libs where the answer is always like Boys and Girls Club of Muncie. Elon Gold, like if you can. There are like 4 or 5 girls basketball tournament in Teaneck, New Jersey. Avi Lieberman. Like it just goes. You just do the calculus,
or just go by the budget that they have.
Yeah,
and you can
exactly.
See who's there. I just said
I wasn't going to say that.
I did. Alex, wow, you have a show that's running on. It's off Broadway, considered, right?
It's running off Broadway, and it's going fairly well. Thank God, it's going all right.
I would say more than fairly well.
More than all right. And now,
Sarah Jessica Parker, Run, Don't Walk to see your show. Hello,
she was
just like that.
So nice. Yeah, my tickets
like that.
Is like.
And just like that.
That's amazing.
It's a show that we have tickets to see the show
on Saturday.
On Saturday, but it's a show I kind of saw the beginning of, right?
Yeah, you saw it in its first or second work in progress in London.
I was in London doing a bunch of shows, and I was at the Soho House. I walk outside, I see Alex's face on a poster, right?
Yes.
And then I
The Soho Theatre on Dean Street, which is across in London in Soho, across the
And
street from
then
Soho House.
we meet up, and you brought me to the show, and it was amazing back then. And this is at least 2 years before COVID.
It was the beginning of 2018. The show was still a work in progress. I was still figuring. It was one of those things where 60 people in a room in a London basement and seeing what sticks when you throw it against the wall. But that story, there's a story at the center of it. I went to this meeting. I went to this get-together for people who I would call white nationalists in Queens, in like this area between Astoria and Long Island City. And
Accidentally, or
kind
not?
of,
Okay,
kind
okay.
of on purpose.
I don't want to. What's it called?
No,
when
you
ruin
can't
this,
spoil. You're not going to spoil. You're not going to spoil.
Spoiler alert! I don't want spoiler alert.
Not totally accident. Hey, not to tangent. Do you get anti-Semitism online, or are you so inside the Jewish community that because I get a lot of anti-Semitism for it, because I'm lefty and Jewish, so I get I'm not saying that anyone's not. I'm just saying that I find myself in spaces where I get anti-Semitism thrown at me.
I get if I post something with and Leo's the one that handles all of it, so he would be better to ask.
I
but-
get a lot of anti-Semitism. Is what he's trying to say.
Leo who's yes, Leo Vega gets a lot of.
I get
no,
a
we
lot of-
get a lot of people post if I do something, they'll just go Free Palestine.
Yeah.
That
The
kind
video
of stuff.
of you meeting the Rebbe, someone commented on TikTok, the dregs of humanity. I was like,
TikTok is bad.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
a good
even.
pull quote.
yeah, I was like, thanks.
I don't look at
That's how I
TikTok.
But you don't see those things. I kind of filter them out.
Right.
So,
So no, I don't think I get
Good,
that.
that's smart, but there was a while 2016, 2017 where I was getting a lot of it for some reason, because I was doing some stuff in the UK, and the UK has it was having a moment where just a jagged edge of anti-Semitism that was running through the discourse there. So I was getting it a lot on the internet, and I started adding all of the anti-Semites to a list on Twitter to annoy them. And the list was called Jewish National Fund donors.
Oh my
Oh,
God, that's
wow.
amazing.
and people on
so-
Twitter can see when they're added
They can
to a
see
list.
when they're added
Yeah.
to the list. So I
Yeah.
got a lot of tweets from anti-Semites going, "Take me off your stupid list. I've never contributed to the Jewish National Fund." And I always wrote back with the link to contribute. I was always like, "There's still time. We're planting 1,000,000 trees in Haifa. Be part of the dream."
Oh my God.
It was a really. So I started doing it, and then I started looking at the people on the list sometimes, because a news event would happen and be like, "Well, what do the anti-Semites think?" Especially something Jewish happens, what do the anti-Semites think? And so I started getting a little bit interested in these people, because if you're really anti-Semitic, you've got something a little loose in there.
Yeah.
Something's a little. It doesn't really compute. It's for dumb people and bad people. Einstein said you couldn't be. Said God gave people the capacity to be three things: smart, kind, and a Nazi. And he said, and you can't be all three at once. He said you can be smart but not kind and a Nazi. You could be kind but not smart and a Nazi, but you couldn't be all. So they're missing
Oh my
something.
God.
And so I was I got a little more interested in these people, and I got involved in some of the other social media sites that they're on. And then this guy put up a message. He's like, "Hey, if you're curious about your whiteness," he was sort of trying to get people to come to this address. And I was like, I'm curious about my whiteness.
Yeah.
So I went, and and the show was about that, basically. It's about being in that room.
So just to recap for people listening, your show it's called Just for Us.
Just
it's
for Us,
running at
yeah.
the Cherry Lane Theater,
Until February 19th.
and it's a one-man show.
It's a
And
one-man
so
show.
You're
Thanks for-
talking about the genesis
He
of,
knows what he's doing.
No,
of-
he's amazing.
of
He's
how we got to this material.
Well,
right?
yeah, but also, yes, that's exactly.
Just-
But also, it's mostly, as Modi will know, jokes are everything. So it's
Right.
So it's jokes. It's There's never a few. I even sometimes get uncomfortable with the term one-man show, even though it
Okay.
clearly is a one-man show, and it's being presented by Mike Birbiglia, who's
Right.
Amazing.
he-
The one man show king.
Yes, he is the Gadol Hador. He's literally
Whoa.
Even Leo knows what that is.
He's the generation's greatest American one-person show, unquestionably. And so it is. It has those auspices, but it was developed in comedy clubs and comedy theaters, so it's still jokes, and And by the way, someone yesterday during
But you
this,
deliver it. You have your own delivery of your. I remember watching it. I remember you watching you in London, and I go, he has his own styling. He has his own styling, and you do it, and that makes it comedy.
But do you see a little bit of, because someone said this to me when they said to me, they've known me a long time, they said, when I look at you, I see a little bit of Modi and a little Elon and a little Gary and a little, so-and-so and so-and-so. And Elon sometimes says he watches me, he's like, I see myself a little bit. But like,
how do you feel about that when people say that?
Fine,
compare you to other comedians.
Well, you know what? I always, I'd say this. I'd never in a million years take any material from someone, although I once did an Elon joke by accident. He was very upset. But Modi always was so grounded on stage, and he had such a presence. It was like a big brother comedian instead of a little brother comedian. And so I think imitating that quality early, in the sense that understanding that being grounded on stage and not constantly like scurrying everywhere, but also not like leaning. Some of the comics at the Cellar, they like lean back against the wall and there's no posture or anything like that. Like Modi's very grounded on stage. He's presentational. He's deliberate about his movements. And so it's not just Modi, but like I noticed that the comics that I loved had that. And so a lot of, sometimes I'll be intentional about being grounded on stage. And before every show, I write 5 goals, and they're different every night based on how the show the night before went. And a lot of the times, it's me reminding myself to have to be grounded in one space and to sort of have the authority to hold the room, because that's, I think, Modi's secret.
You once opened for me for a Christmas show, and I do my meditation and my goals in the back.
Yes.
It's never about me. It's about the audience.
Sure.
I always want whoever's in there that needs to laugh, whoever's going through hell, whoever's just found a diagnosis or something. Let that. But grounded is the word you use. I use the word confidence.
Sure.
I remember one thing I told you once. Alex opened for me before he was a comedian.
Yes, I've opened for Modi since the time it was extremely shitty.
No, he wasn't shitty.
I wasn't very. I wasn't.
You were fine.
I was a child.
You were a child.
I
You were
was like
16. We were in a Passover program
in Scottsdale, Arizona.
And they said he knew me, and I knew him, and he knew Elon, and he goes, "I'd love to open for you," and the woman who there's Linda asked, and it's a no-brainer.
It's not a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
I would never say yes to this if I was in your...
It's a no-brainer.
It's definitely not a no-brainer.
I've been in your position since then, and I have not always said yes. Let's just say that.
No. The position. No. It's not a no. It is a no-brainer, because let me give you the set. You're in a program where they all know you and adore you.
Oh God.
It's 800 people that know you for years of.
I still remember my first joke.
I gave it to you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
No, so
you said,
and half the room is his family. The other half knows him for years. It's a no-brainer.
They don't. Man, I'm glad you didn't know what the reality of it.
If it was some other comic, I just had a comic bomb for me in oh my God, I haven't seen a bomb in a while. But in Florida, it wasn't a no-brainer. Some guy came on and bombed, but Alex went on. What was the joke I gave you?
The joke you said, this next comedian from HBO, from Comedy Central, from NBC. You know me from the swimming pool, from the swing, from the coffee table, like that. From the buffet, yeah.
But he delivered it, and he was so adorable and so cute. And then at the buffet,
Modi thinks this wasn't intentional, and I knew he was there, and this is still something that I think is really funny, and Modi's like, he didn't know it was there, he thought it was, go ahead, say this thing.
Alex is standing there, and I'm behind him.
I know he's behind me. I knew where the comedian in the room was at all times, excuse me.
Okay, so someone says to Alex, goes, you were great, and Modi, and this and that, and he goes, yeah, Modi's great. He's not as original as Elon.
Gold, yeah. I was trying to be funny.
Oh, okay. I was like, did he just after I just put him on?
So just to backtrack a little bit, and we have to address it because people lose their minds, because Periel traditionally wears a mask on the show, and we make fun of her for it.
Well, not only you make fun of me.
The listeners make fun of you, but we just took as a disclaimer, we are wearing masks because, again, you have a one-man show.
You have an
artistic show with a full cast full production crew
But if
involved.
I get sick, the understudy's
Exactly.
Mike Birbiglia, and he's too busy to do the show. So like, there's no one who knows the show. So if I get sick, the show goes down,
there's
and
no
20-something
understudy.
people lose their
Yeah,
job. Like I've
absolutely.
got to be.
How great is it that it's only you? The city winery shows I did during Christmas, they canceled every show around me because it was bands, and every band had like 6 people, and one of them all had
One
corona.
of them got sick, and that was it. And so, like, by the way, we shut down for a month,
you did,
and not because I got sick, but because like
Omicron.
well, people weren't feeling safe coming to the theater, and the numbers now are back to a reasonable place,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Where they're back to a place where, frankly, some of this is people are still getting over the emotional thing, but like the numbers are back to a normal, but it was crazy for a while.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
so,
crazy.
and because New York is so far ahead of the country in health, in health trends, like certain parts of the country are bananas right now because they're going
right.
through what
We just
went
got
through.
back from Florida, so
Let's get back to Alex. Alex
Sorry.
is hilarious. Now, Alex is one. The comics all find their place where they build themselves. You were in Europe for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, frankly, I learned to be a comedian here, and I feel like there was a time where it was like, okay, I'm good now, and everybody's like, you're the kid, and I was like, no, but I'm good at comedy, and everyone's like, no, you're the child who hung out at comedy clubs, and I'm like, I promise you, I'm good at comedy, and then I went abroad. And like after a while, you get basic competence in comedy. If you keep writing and working, you put some jokes together. You have a thing.
Yeah.
And so I went abroad, and they were like, "You're good," and I'm like, "That's what I'm trying to tell people," which is like a little bratty of me, but like it worked overseas. And then in the States, some people were like, "Okay, I guess he's good," like it was one of those things where, and I kept having to go overseas. And also, I'm sure you've experienced this in the same way. Never thought we'd get to travel and go. Even that time you were in London, you had been hired. You had this wonderful situation.
Yeah.
This woman who was wonderful. Like it is a truly unique child's life. And so I really loved being able, like, they're like, you want to do Australia for a month? And I was like, I'm not married, I don't have kids. Sure. So like I did shows in like Berlin and Moscow with Eddie Izzard.
Copenhagen and places, Hupitsville.
In Istanbul,
No,
like,
but was that the big festival over there?
Amsterdam.
No, the other one.
Edinburgh?
Edinburgh.
In Scotland. Yeah, that was Edinburgh.
It sounds
where
so
it made
amazing. He's doing the Edinburgh Festival. Finally, somebody asked me to do it too. They offer you 16 cents.
Yeah, they offer
I
you
said-
nothing. You get
I
no
said,
guarantee.
I'll give you 26 to not invite me. But Alex was there for a long time. But
And it made look, it's my second home, the UK. I haven't been there in 2.5 years, but I haven't been there since March of 2020. But it is where my career started, and I still love going there. It's the only place.
I remember getting a letter from you when you decided that this was your career.
One solo shows. Like the comics I like do hours. The comics I like can go in front of an audience for an hour and crush. None of this like 15 minutes, 7 minutes BS that you see in New York and Los Angeles. I wanted comics who like, you walk out, then the audience has changed. Their transport,
Yeah.
the connection is there.
No, but you sent a very sweet letter to me saying, I have decided to make comedy my career. And a part of it is because of you.
It's true. You and
it was
Elon,
me,
and
Elon,
Gary.
and
Derek.
it was very sweet.
It was
very, very sweet.
It really was on Father's Day or something.
On Father's Day.
Goldman, I texted
We'll
Goldman
unpack
and
that later.
Elon and
And
Modi,
yeah.
or like something, and I was like, comedy dads, some shit like that. But it was yeah. You
funny.
put me on in a Pesach program when I was 16. Like it was my first comedy.
Wait, so is that where you guys met when you were 16? That
It's
was
half my life ago.
Right.
Half my life ago. I'm 32.
Yeah.
and just like randomly he was at this place in
This program,
Scottsdale.
it's
Well,
a Scottsdale.
I'm Dati, and so I was raised.
He's the T. Oh, this is hysterical. So the T means religious. Okay, so he's.
I
not-
was raised Dati. Okay?
So one time
Oh,
I
God.
took Alex to do a show with me in his town.
in Boston.
In Newton. My mom is your
Newton.
town.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
literally your town.
Next door to Brookline, next door to my town. Yeah.
They said to me like this. I'm gonna tell the story.
Please.
They said to me, "Here's this. We're gonna give you $1,500 for an opening act." So I said, "You know what? I'll bring Alex and Eric Newman." Right? And then I said to them in the car, "One of you's gonna get 1,000, and the other's gonna get 500." And they both go, who's going to get 1,000? I go, whoever blows me, because neither one of you has $1,000 act. That was the joke. But everybody would be
Wait.
It was a joke. Leave it alone.
I remember exactly the moment that you said that in the car. We were coming off the exit on the highway, and I was like,
So now Eric's obsessing about his act, what he's going to do there, and then Alex is obsessing about.
The blowjob.
No, Alex is obsessing about whether to wear a yarmulke or not.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
I do.
You, for about an hour and a half, were in the green room. Yes, yarmulke. No yarmulke. Yes, which, by the way, I brought you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. By the way, to think I don't have one of these.
It's insane that you don't have my yarmulke.
Of course I do. I have one. We have several in
I
the
just
house.
ordered 1,500 more.
We
So.
have so many of them.
So Alex ended up. Did you wear it or not?
I wore the yarmulke.
His parents were there. His rabbi were there.
But, you know, I had a real thing. I went on Conan and I said I'm an Orthodox Jew. And people sent me emails going, "You're not an Orthodox Jew. You're not wearing a yarmulke. You're not this and that." And, like, not to get too serious, but I think being Orthodox, like, if you're raised Orthodox and you feel a certain way and your relationship with God is a certain way, or you're not, even a non-relationship with God, it's like struggling's the whole thing in Orthodoxy, then, like, you can eat bacon-wrapped scallops for 5 meals a day and wipe your mouth with a Torah. It's still like but the second time I did Conan, I said, should I wear a yarmulke?
Oh wow!
And I thought I didn't.
No, good.
Because I thought, you know what? It's something I want to put more thought into. If I do it, I had thought of it like 2 days before. But like, if I do late night again, maybe.
So me wearing a yarmulke or not, it's again, know your audience. If they need you to be wearing a yarmulke and it fits the room and it fits what's happening, yes. If not.
You had the line of you've done cocaine but not bacon.
Yeah, I say I've
You
tried
said that on
cocaine. I said that on Conan. I've never tried bacon. I have tried cocaine. But also people wrote me like, "Oh my God, how horrible for a young Jew to be saying that, you know, he's done drugs."
Do people write me these types of things? I don't
Yes,
see it.
Modi,
try
they
not
write
to
you
I
bother.
all
don't
the
want to
time.
look at any of that. Something
No,
else. So
you're-
hold on. I know you're doing the podcast circuit, and I don't know if this is the same stuff.
No. It's not. Trust me. With all due respect, this is not the kind of stuff you talk about on other podcasts.
I'm going to change the conversation even
Sure.
more what you don't talk about on podcasts. Now, so Alex years ago, and I want to segue into this beautifully and flawlessly and lovely. But Alex, a few years ago. No, let's. I'm going to start this way. I recently watched a few. I don't know. You know how sometimes you land on YouTube on things.
Sure.
So I've landed on a bunch of Milton Berle roasts.
Sure.
Milton Berle was one of the 3, 4, 5 generations ago, one of the biggest
Comedians in the world, yeah.
And, you know, he was the first guy on TV. He wore the first dress, first man wearing a dress on TV. There's a million things he did first. But what seemed to be the number one thing that everybody knew him for
Was the size of his penis.
was the size of his
Modi.
schmuck. So we can always delete this if you don't want. A few years back, Alex is living in New York City, and he had to go to some event. He was schmuggling with the bigwigs and some producers and actors, and he says to me, "Modi, I need a suit. Can you come with me to go get a suit?" So we go get a suit. We went to get a suit, and he's trying to jack it on, and he comes out with the. I go stand up straight. He goes, the pants were a little tight, and I look at his crotch and I go, "What the hell is that?" And Alex said, I quote, "That's me."
Oh my
He
God!
said,
I
"It's
did
me."
not.
I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, it's really big." So does the comedy world know that you have one of the biggest schmucks in comedy right now? You're the Milton Berle of a schwanz. You have the Milton Berle schwanz.
He's
Is
gonna
it-
have to go toe to toe with Will Sylvans.
I
Really? Will Sylvans is what you bring a black comedian to this? This is a Jewish comedian with the biggest schmuck in comedy. Alex is turning red. Those of you who aren't watching this, he's turning red.
Yeah,
and he remembers the day. We
I
were
was
in
getting
the
a
basement.
suit for New Faces from Montreal. That's what I was getting.
Uh-huh.
We're in the basement of one of like the Bloomingdale's or something like that. Modi knows clothing, so I was like,
And by Bloomingdale's, he means Zara. His budget was like
Zara.
$1.50.
Yeah, my budget was $1.50. I was barely making money as a comedian, but you got me a
looked
nice
good.
suit.
We got a nice, but he comes out and he's like all hunched up. I go, what do you do? So Alex, if anybody needs to know, it should be on this podcast when you found out that Alex has a schwanz. Period. Now let's go back. I hope sales are doing well for your show,
right.
Alex. Let's go back to that.
Talk about Mike Birbiglia.
Well, I won't be wearing jeans on stage now. Oh my God. That is, yeah, I remember.
Good for you. Good for you. Where do we go from here?
I don't know, maybe ask him some questions about his show.
There's only one direction.
No.
It's up.
So listen, your show now. Is there production value besides just you standing on stage?
You know, there are little things here and there. Yeah, there's something you'll see on
Saturday.
Yeah, I try to bring people into. I wanted to keep it very minimalist. I can't believe we're segueing from that into like I want to keep it minimalist, very spare, but like yeah, trying to keep it as much like stand up as it can. Although it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. Derek Delgadio, who's this magician, he's done this amazing special called In and of Itself. And he directed Neil Brennan's last show at the Cherry Lane, which was on before me. And he said to me, yes, he came to the show a couple days ago. It was very nice. And afterwards, he was like, well, how do you feel? And I was like, it's not like comedy clubs. It's for the first time, doing it off-Broadway, doing it in a theater is different from doing it in a comedy club. The audiences are different. The space is different. What they laugh at is different. It's very jarring. You have to like really decide what you want, adjust what you want. And sometimes I have this director from the UK who's at the theater that you see. He's a really smart guy. He worked on Fleabag. He's done, his name's Adam Brace. And he said to me, he's like, we should cut this. It's a joke in the middle of it's a joke in the middle of the story. And I'm like,
no. You're kidding.
And he's like, the momentum that you lose from the story by doing the joke isn't worth it. And I'm like, you're right. And it's so weird to have to hear that. We shrunk the joke and moved it a couple of moments later, so I wouldn't lose the joke. But like making those kinds of decisions, you say but your goals are always for the audience. So my goals are always for performance because sometimes I can't control what's in the audience. But like Derek also said something about one of the goals is always legibility. Can the audience follow this clearly? Can they? So like my goals are always about me, which is like enunciation, because sometimes I struggle to enunciate, or like grounding. Like what it is always to try to make my performance better, which isn't like like the first time I brought someone experience to see you, my friend Mark, he went, it's like watching Alan King. Like you have this presence that's like, how did you develop your stage presence? Because by the time I knew you, you were already kind of like a formed entity. Not that I haven't seen you change in small ways, in many ways over the last, and I've seen you like rise to fill big spaces and shrink a little to fit intimate ones. But like, how did you watch 1 million people?
I never watched any. The reason I had all that confidence up front was kind of like the guest we had before you. When I began doing comedy, I had no goal to do comedy. You were 16, you wanted to be a comedian. I had no idea I wanted to be a comedian. So when I went on stage, I had a full-time job in a bank, an investment banking bank, in Merrill Lynch. I didn't give a damn if this was going to work out or not. And I went on stage.
The answer is money.
No, the answer is you're not in your headspace. You're not in like, this has to work. If there's I'm like, I went out there, I threw it out there, it hit. And back then it was like this over the top. No, it wasn't my voice. It was just these huge characters that were just the Spanish secretary, the gay secretary, all these different languages and just massive characters. And that was when I began. And then you build your voice, and now it's just a big Jew on stage. But it's which is fine, which is good. But
it's a New Yorker on stage.
But it's it's definitely that was the reason. I was never scared. Like, I hope this works. I hope this joke lands. I never cared.
But you've been watching him perform a long time. Have you noticed changes over the years, by degrees, or you think it's always?
I mean, I think some things I started filming you a lot. Yeah. And making you watch it like football footage.
I think that's really smart. I do the same with audio, but I do the same.
Tiny little things that can see you change. But yeah, I think it's interesting to watch you fill different spaces, like you mentioned.
Each space is different. Each audience is different. Spaces are just people don't understand how important a space is. Like, the best show I had of 2021 was at the Laugh Factory in December. I had not been in LA since.
Was it Merry Arab Christmas? Was
No,
it
no, no,
Elon's
it was my own show.
Okay, sure.
I took it in December. We packed it out. I was there to another event. We took this kind of last minute, packed up. The energy was insane.
Yeah.
It's a comedy club.
That's
It's
great.
like what it's meant to be.
It is a great I had one of my best sets there, and I did Elon's Thanksgiving show or something, and it was so fun. The people, they're there. It's exciting. Like it is a.
I talk
the
about it.
spaces.
A comedy club is the comedian's house. When you do a theater, you're both coming to this place.
Yeah.
When you do a country club, when I perform for 500 people at some Glen Oaksdale country club,
Sure.
it's their turf. I'm on their turf.
It
It's
takes
a
longer to
dynamic.
be comfortable on their
It's
turf.
a dynamic. They're looking like who they bring here for my after dinner entertainment. It's a different vibe. You know, you're a comedian at the comedy club. They're here in your home, and it's a different energy. And a theater is depends.
It's like
on the theater,
neutral.
yeah.
It's like neutral
It is
ground.
special.
Well, you
Theater.
say
A theater
you-
is a
you
time. Is a theater is a space. Like Modi said, it's a space apart a little bit. It's like, it's an event. People got a sitter, and it's just interesting though, because Birbiglia is always like, tell them the story. He's like, they're here for you to tell them the story. Just if you're ever nervous, or if you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm doing too much of this or too little of that, just tell them the story. They've got a babysitter, so you could tell them the story. So it's a really interesting dynamic because the theater is special, and then the New York Times could be there one day, and like Matthew Broderick is there. It's a thing, but you're still just doing the same. And sometimes I'll be on stage and I'll be like, "This is incredible! I can't believe I'm doing this." And it's still this. And sometimes I'm like, "It's the same thing I'm doing in a basement, in a bar, or It's so funny that stand-up comedy is, and like this is why I keep the set decoration or the other effects of it minimal, because there's something glorious about the fact that like Wembley, I got to perform at Wembley in beginning of 2020, opening for somebody, and it's a guy in a microphone and a stool. And then 2 days later, a friend of mine was like, come do my show in a bar in London, and I go and there are 4 people. And it's the same, and I noticed it was a Shure 58. It was the same brand of microphone, same mics. Like, it's something kind of crazy about that. No, that it's still just like, because it's not that way in music. In music,
Right.
like, you're not gonna go to an arena and see like one guy with like a guitar and a little shitty speaker. Like, but stand-up comedy, it's crazy.
But you say you have problems enunciating.
Yeah. Yes.
So
all the time.
I really have problems with that, and if I don't have monitors that are good,
Sure.
it really hinders
Affects
me.
the show,
I
sure.
can't get words out, and I also, which Leo pointed out to me, sometimes I know the joke already and where it's going,
Sure.
so I leave things out because I'm already there. In my head when I do a joke, I'm picturing everything.
Sure.
I'm picturing the entire. When I say and here's money, I'm picturing the entire show that when they introduced me, I'm picturing this, and so I'm just seeing this. I'm seeing it in my head and telling it, and so sometimes I'm already 2 steps ahead of what I'm seeing. You
Sure.
know, so
And also, by the way, with audiences, especially, I don't know. You perform in front of probably the most. I don't know how I would describe it, like a Pesach program or something like that. It's not these are not easy audiences, though. I think when your reputation is as someone who can do well pretty much anywhere, because I'm like, sometimes I'll walk into a room and see you, like I've seen you do shows in front of a totally Hasidic crowd, and I'm like, there aren't a lot of comics who could have this.
that's a rough room, yeah, because they hide their laughter.
Yeah, I know.
They laugh into their hands. They haven't. It's really and then they come over to you and they go, "You are amazing. You are. Well, why don't
Tell
you
your
laugh?"
face, yeah.
But again, it's the dynamic. A Passover program. It's a show for 800 people. It's not to be poo-pooed on. It's 800 people there, but the shows are part of the program. So they might go or they might not go. The best is when
Yeah.
they don't go and find out it's amazing.
Yeah, and they're like, "Are you gonna do another show?" And you're like, "No, you missed it, idiot."
Yeah, you're gonna do it. You hear? No, I'm out I have a 6 a.m. flight to the
Yeah.
next program. So,
Hire me. Yeah.
So enjoy the magician tomorrow night.
No, the hypnotist.
The hypnotist.
They always get a hypnotist. What's
And they don't care. They don't care. It's so funny. The Passover program shows. One time I went to one just as a guest of a friend of mine. It was on the days where you can't use a microphone.
Yeah.
The Yontif days. Are you with me or no?
No, you
I knew
lost
it was
me.
gonna-
There are some days. There are some days on Passover that you can use electricity and talk. They're called Chol Hamoed. And some of the days are the holiday, and you cannot use electricity. You can't do anything.
Shabbos, Dick. It's a Shabbos.
It's like
Dick.
Shabbos. Some of the days are like Shabbos.
So the
basically.
first 2 days and the last 2 days of Passover, you cannot use microphone or drive a car and all that. In the middle, you can. Anyway,
Oh,
I met this
God.
program.
Hey,
no,
hey! Imagine trying to explain this to your boss to ask for time off on a television show. My favorite was Sukkot. I was like, I need it. He's like, what's the holiday? I was like, I'm building a hut. And he's like,
I'm walking around with a leaf and a
he's
lemon.
like, you're not building a hut. I was like, I'm building a hut. And
Was he
he's like,
Jewish? Was he Jewish?
Chris? No.
Oh,
He
no.
was.
Usually, if they're non-Jewish, like, okay, please go ahead, do your
course.
thing, no problem.
He
If
was.
it's a Jewish guy, wait, I'll be here, you can be here.
Yeah, he was. That's the thing. He was. He just wanted to know what was going on, and he's
Okay.
like, "How big is the hut?" And I was like, "It depends how big you think
We've
of."
heard it's pretty big.
He said, it depends how big you think a fist is. Like it's 10 fists, and he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. It's like fuck him. It's like I'm trying to explain like cubits, like
Yep.
based on like arm lengths and hand lengths
Oh
to
my
like a guy
God.
who went to Harvard,
That's
and he's
hysterical.
trying to grasp it. It was but you're right. Because I asked off for Yom Kippur, and they're like, "Well, Mark is Jewish, and he's going to be here."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, I couldn't be like, well, Mark's going to hell." So I didn't say that. It's also not true. But it was funny to be like, "Yeah, well, there are different people with different practices." They were nice. They gave me Yom Kippur off, and
That's
they gave me
very sweet
Sukkot
of
off.
them.
But
They're
it was
like, you
very
can
sweet.
have Yom Kippur, but Sukkot's ridiculous.
Can I have tuba of Jewish Arbor Day? Can I have?
You're like, it's Lag BaOmer.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Can I bring my bows and arrow into the office for Lag BaOmer? They very.
Lag BaOmer has bows and yes, it does. That's right. Oh my
Bows and
God,
arrows,
it's such a Hebrew school reference.
There are so many Judaism. There's so many little niches, and then you'd find out about the different kinds of like Salonican Judaism, and and Orthodox, and there's Kaifengi Judaism in
Who?
China. There are Chinese Jews,
Yes.
Kaifengi Jews, and Kochini Jews in India. Like there's so many different kinds
Wow.
of Jews, and sometimes I went to Istanbul,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy came up to me. He's like, "I'm a Kaifengi Jew," and I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "My family's from like the Yellow River of China, and so there have been Jews there for 1,000 years." I was like,
Wow.
"Oh," and he was like, "Did you know that?" I was like, "Of course I knew that. Of course I knew
Of
that."
course I did.
I was like, "What else do I also know about that?" Like he was telling me about like the food they make, and like and then you go to Israel.
And they're all
Israel's
there.
very complicated, but like I like being able to wear a yarmulke everywhere without anyone thinking it's weird. And I also like the fact sometimes someone will come to a show, and like when I was performing in Israel at the time, there was a group of Beta Israel, like a group of Ethiopian Jews
Yeah.
who would come to this comedy club all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wild because like never met Ethiopian Jews. And
Yeah.
then when I was there, it's great. It was
Yeah,
great.
I remember the first time I went to Israel and saw all of the Ethiopian Israeli Jews, and it blew my mind. It was
I
incredible.
think it's one of the most amazing things about Israel that they became part of the culture so fast and so. I mean, I'm not an Ethiopian Jew, so I don't know, but it looked like they were just embraced so beautifully by
I mean,
Israel.
I think unfortunately
Some have bad
it's-
stories, but the way it seems, at any rate, in Israel, it's funny that you say you wear a yarmulke whenever you want. Israel, in America, it's like if you wear a yarmulke, you keep the Sabbath. In Israel, the guy's driving on Shabbat with a yarmulke. He doesn't give a damn. Shabbat
Yeah,
shalom.
yeah, of course.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
It's so weird because sometimes I'm like, in LA, I live in LA and I walk around my neighborhood, and some days I wear, a yarmulke, but I'm less. I don't love when I run into a friend and they're like, "Hi, Alex," and they look at my, first thing you do is look at yarmulke, and I'm like, ugh, this is why I don't. You know,
I'm the opposite. I feel like when they look at me and they don't see a yarmulke, why isn't he wearing a yarmulke? It's the opposite. Like, shouldn't he be wearing a yarmulke? Isn't that yoily? Isn't it? Yeah.
Near, not far.
Near.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know. So let's wrap this up. But there's a show, ladies and gentlemen.
The show's going well. I think we're gonna try to find new homes for it. Also, it's been this week is sold out, but we're doing shows next week and the week after that, and like it's been wonderful. And also for the first time performing in front, not to make this all one thing, but performing in front of Jewish audiences. I never performed in front of Jewish audiences and or audiences that weren't, like 2%, 3% Jewish. Now the audiences here are like 25%, 30% Jewish. It's very nice. And so, I don't know. It's really lovely, and also not for nothing to do a show in New York. I've never done a run of shows in it's like the most
amazing.
rewarding thing in the world.
It's wonderful.
You have a question for him, no?
Yes, I always ask all of our guests.
I know.
So, who's your rabbi? And like, obviously not your rabbi.
I know.
From synagogue.
I've listened. I've seen. I have a couple. I'm gonna take comedy out of the equation because I think it's too obvious. We've already talked about my comedy rabbis.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your father, definitely. And
father's up there.
Your brother, you kind of look up to and would run things by.
My brother's very smart. Both my brothers are very smart.
The whole family's very, very smart. They're like Harvard-y people.
My father's an MIT and Harvard professor. He's very smart, very thoughtful guy. We speak and argue every day. My chavrusa is someone I study with every week. Her name's Sarah Hurwitz. Sarah was a speechwriter for Michelle Obama for 8 years.
Wow.
And then after the White House, instead of writing Michelle Obama's book with her, she wrote a book on Jewish spirituality called Here All Along. So she's someone I speak to every week about, and she has the best, she has the speechwriter's way of summing up things. Like, this big conversation now about whether or not Jews are white? She said to me, here's how you know if you think Jews are white. If you think being white is awesome, Jews are not white. If you think being white sucks, Jews are the whitest people who have ever lived. It's a lose-lose situation. So she's great. And also, my rabbi is this last woman that I wrote television with. Her name's Genji Cohan. She's amazing. We go hiking in Los Angeles sometimes, and she is the wisest person I know. So I have lots of rabbis in my life. I've always sort of been lucky, and maybe this is the Hebrew school kid in me, but I've always gathered mentors who have taught me a lot of stuff. So that's the way I know to learn. But yeah, I have lots of rabbis in my life.
Okay, those are good ones.
My father, Sarah, and Genji are up there.
That's amazing. Want to plug the show one last time? Please.
The show's called Just for Us. It's at the Cherry Lane Theater. It's produced by Mike Birbiglia. It's running until February 19th. We've added a whole bunch of extra shows. Tickets seem to be going fairly well. It's clean, which apparently matters to people, and it's been lovely. So please come. And my name's Alex Edelman. If you need to find me, Edelman, like the football player, the Jewish football player.
We'll be at the show on.
We'll be at the show on the 11th,
which is Friday.
You can give it a scathing review next week.
The 11th?
Saturday.
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
Saturday.
Well, today is the 3rd. Tomorrow's the 4th. You're coming Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought the tickets. You guys are telling me when the show is.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Again, Alex Edelman. The show is at the Cherry Lane Theater. He's amazing. Produced by Mike Birbiglia. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who that is, my audience, it's worth a deep dive into.
Oh
he
my
is
God, yes.
Genius. I saw his show on Broadway twice, because I brought 2 friends to watch his show, and I'd never seen anybody laugh that hard.
Oh my God.
She couldn't catch her breath. I was with Dina.
Yeah.
She was crying. She couldn't. She was. Everything
She's never
hit
laughed like
so hard with the.
He's so brilliant.
Brilliant. And then I saw it on HBO or Netflix, whatever it's on. Mike Birbiglia, definitely.
You must. You must.
It's one of the greats of this generation. Your show is at
Stand Up New York.
Stand Up New York, and it's got a new name now.
Well, yeah, Great Set is on Thursdays, and then once a month we're doing See You Next Tuesday on Tuesdays.
Okay. And Leo and I, you can catch us on Modi_live on Instagram, and I'm going to be, watch this, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on March 3rd. On the 5th, I'm going to be in Boston. And then on the 13th, I will be in Philly. Tickets available at ModiLive.com. Links in the bio of Instagram. Thank you all so much for listening. Alex, I can't thank you enough. I
This
cannot
is
tell you how
wonderful.
happy I am that you are. It's you love to see people that you love succeed, and you are you're Baruch Hashem succeeding.
Well, I hope if you're shepping any nachas, it's because of
Shepping nachas,
if you are,
100%.
it's deserve it, and and I've always said that you and Elon and Gary are the Mount Rushmore for me.
Oh,
Aw,
that's
that's
so
nice.
sweet. That's so
So.
sweet. Thank you all
All right.
very much.
Thanks, guys.